Hello comrades, this is General Luigi, and welcome to Let's Prepare to Play Fire Emblem Awakening. Starting with this episode, we're finally done with the second group. As a result, I imagine the remaining 3 videos will be significantly shorter. Now, as always, before I start, I feel I should remind you that I am classifying pairings according to my personal views on what works, what doesn't, what's believable, and what isn't. You are free to disagree with me, and I wouldn't be surprised if you did, but as I pointed out in the prologue, I will not stand for flaming. This week's bride-to-be is Tharja. Veterans of the game probably know she has eyes for my character. However, since I've already promised myself to someone else for this playthrough, it's in everyone's best interest for Tharja to be able to find someone else too. Obsessing over someone you can't have, please excuse the wording, is unhealthy. Not that she's necessarily the pinnacle of mental health without that obsession, but you know, progress. To start, we'll look at Tharja's supports with Kellum. A running gag in these supports is Kellum's tendency to startle Tharja simply by being so hard to notice. Said gag is ultimately irrelevant to the main theme of the conversations, though. I feel the important aspect of these supports is that they reveal some interesting things about both Tharja and Kellum. At first, we just learn that both of them have families and that they both write to their respective families. When Kellum doesn't hear back from his oldest brother, though, Tharja offers to use magic to locate him. Kellum's family is brought up in other conversations, but this shows us that he worries about them. The big focus, however, is on Tharja. Even though she tries to come off as evil, she offered to help Kellum without him asking, and she didn't even ask for anything in return. Kellum is grateful for Tharja's kindness, and ends up falling in love with her. My problem with this pairing is that I have trouble getting a good read on Tharja's own feelings. Kellum's apparent feelings for Tharja strike me as being too hasty. It's almost as though his gratitude combined with an infatuation to create the illusion of love. They get points for actually getting along, though, so while I don't see much going for this pairing, I'm willing to at least make it a Class 1 pairing. I think you can guess what is addressed in Lon'qu's supports with Tharja. It's pretty much inevitable, given what the supports lead to, that Lon'qu needs to cure himself of his genophobia. Tharja is quick to offer to use magic to help cure him. Though hesitant at first, Lon'qu asks for Tharja's help. To cure him, however, she needs to know the source of his problem. Lon'qu shares the story of how a girl he had become close to was killed by bandits. You might remember this story from Lon'qu's supports with Shersha, though in the support with Tharja, Lon'qu actually says that he and Carrie, though he doesn't name her this time, had fallen in love. After hearing Lon'qu's story, Tharja reaffirms her willingness to help him, but insists that she learn more about his past with Carrie. When all is said and done and Tharja is ready to cure Lon'qu, she mentions that the spell will rid him of all memories of Carrie and any other memories that contributed to his current situation. Unsurprisingly, Lon'qu backs out after learning about this. His stated reason is that the memories make him strong. I suspect it's more a matter of still caring about Carrie, but I can't prove it. Still, come S level, Lon'qu is chosen to try to overcome his genophobia through sheer force of will. Tharja offers to marry Lon'qu, allegedly to further help him overcome his condition. As it turns out, Lon'qu had been planning to propose to Tharja in the first place. I don't have as much against Tharja marrying Lon'qu as I do against her marrying Kellum, but there is still something that bothers me about this pairing. While they are both interested in getting married, Tharja seems only interested in marrying Lon'qu to help him deal with his genophobia. Simply put, I don't believe she's marrying him out of love. It's a higher Class 1 than with Kellum, but I still consider this a Class 1 pairing. Tharja's supports with Rickon give us a better look at just what a curse is. Rickon, ever eager to grow, wants to learn about curses. To that end, he asks Tharja to teach him how to cast curses. One thing I like about this series of conversations is that we get to see the side of Tharja that she prefers to keep hidden. She initially outright refuses to teach Rickon on the grounds that cursing is a dangerous art, and she is not yet skilled enough herself to be qualified to teach him. Rickon is persistent, though, and persuades Tharja to intensify her studies and also give him some basic instructions. Rickon doesn't have access to the Dark Mage and Sorcerer classes in-game, so this doesn't translate into the actual gameplay, but in the A-level conversation, Rickon successfully casts a Happiness Contagion curse on Tharja, who had volunteered to be the curse's target. Yes, you heard that right. He cast a happiness curse on the gloomiest person in the army. Tharja reaffirms her preference for acting dark and gloomy, though, and insists Rickon not talk about what happened. In the S-level conversation, Rickon expresses an interest in continuing to learn curses together with Tharja. It comes off as a let's be study buddies proposal, which is why I don't really think much of the marriage proposal Rickon follows it up with. They get points for forming a bit of a bond by A-level, but the love just didn't come across to me. Class 0. Tharja's supports with Libra offer us a look into Libra's past. We start off with Tharja trying to develop a spell that would alter memories. Unlike the curse mentioned in her supports with Lon'qu, this curse changes memories. For example, someone who remembers being abandoned by his parents could be given a memory of being loved by them. As it turns out, Libra has some bad memories he would like replaced, so he volunteers to be Tharja's test subject. The curse fails, however, and in the process of casting it, Tharja sees into Libra's heart and learns about the memories he wanted replaced. Libra's parents believed he was possessed by demons, so they abandoned him as a child. Until he joined the clergy, his life was miserable. Simply having his memories known by someone else helps dull the pain, however, and he is feeling better in the A-level conversation. In the S-level conversation, Libra asks Tharja to look into his heart again, and she finds that Libra has fallen in love with her. As it turns out, Tharja has developed feelings for Libra herself. Their feelings for each other come across quite well in the S-level conversation. The only thing keeping me from making this a Class 3 pairing is that I'm having trouble picking up on any bond forming between them before that point. Class 2. Oh boy. Henry and Tharja. Could there be any other couple with so much in common, yet such drastically different personalities? With a lot of characters, Henry's quirks come off as just flat-out weird. Here, however, they seem to work with Tharja's own quirks in such a way that I'm able to actually enjoy the conversations between them. Tharja is absolutely baffled, and a bit offended, that a dark mage would be so cheerful all the time. It appears to get on her nerves, but the two appear to strike up a bit of an odd friendship, culminating in a wizard fight right after the end of the A-level conversation. They both come off as actually having fun, though, although it's not always easy to tell with Henry. Come S-level, Henry has fallen in love with Tharja, and after a marriage proposal that's pretty much all over the place, Tharja agrees to marry him, even commenting as an aside that the man is completely nuts, but that she's a long way from normal herself, and that, in her own words, perhaps it's the perfect match. These two actually come off as being rather fond of each other by the end of these conversations, and despite Tharja's reaction to Henry's proposal, she gives off the impression that she actually is pleased with it. Whether or not she's outright in love with him is a bit ambiguous, but for once I'm willing to excuse it on the grounds that I feel they just fit together so well. Class 3, as if it wasn't obvious what I was going to say. Tharja's supports with Donal once again call attention to the fact that curses are not necessarily evil. Donal, believing them good from the get-go, gathers materials for Tharja's curses whenever she asks him to. No questions asked. Tharja eventually suspects Donal's hoping to get a curse cast for him in return, but he's just helping out, believing that by getting materials for Tharja to cast curses, he's helping everyone. When Donal finally mentions what he thinks curses are, Tharja tries to explain to him that not all curses are like that. She has trouble pulling it off thanks to her later using a curse to cure a disease that was spreading through the army, though. Unsurprisingly, she doesn't want anyone to know it was her. She's got a reputation to maintain, after all. In the S-level conversation, Tharja proposes to Donal. She words it in such a way that she's more so asking him to be her servant than her husband. Insert marriage joke here. Tharja admits to having feelings for Donal when pressed, but I feel as though there wasn't any real bond forming between them in the conversations leading to this point. It's just Donal doing Tharja's bidding, and Tharja repaying his kindness with a helpful curse every now and then. Class 1. As with Muriel, I find it hard to get a good read on Tharja's feelings. It doesn't help that, unlike the lady I'm marrying, Tharja is not implied to have gotten over her feelings for the original object of her obsession. Still, I wouldn't be marrying her off if I didn't have a good reason for doing so. If you wish for me to reclassify the one Class 0 pairing I included this time, you have until 12 o'clock p.m. Pacific Daylight Time this Wednesday, March 13th, to convince me to do so. The polls will close at 12 o'clock p.m. this coming Sunday, March 16th. I will see you next time.